Hello, welcome to episode number 2 of Faith and Law. We're excited to have a guest, our first guest on this infamous podcast. Of course, we have Jonathan in the room, and we have our photographer, Dandy Andy, and Sheriff Tim Smith from Fleming County, Kentucky. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jonathan?
Good morning.
Good morning. How's things going in the Commonwealth's Attorney Office?
It's going great. It's cold, and we're ready for warmer weather, and we're ready for the cross raising across town today.
Yep.
And that may be something that we want to talk about on a subsequent podcast.
Yep.
But we're getting ready for Fleming Circuit Court tomorrow, and
Great.
Things are busy.
That's such a neat place that the Lundergrens have built over there, run off 68. Gethsemane Gardens, I think, is what it's called.
I think so. I'm excited to see they're raising a cross, I understand, today. So our entire office staff is going over there to check that out.
Very good. Very good. Sheriff, well, I know it was a long trip from Fleming County.
Not too bad. We're on this side, so it's just a straight shot.
That's good. Tell us a little bit about you. How long you been in law enforcement? And
my name's Tim Smith. I'm the sheriff of Fleming County. Started in law enforcement in 2007, so just over 18 years of service. I was also in the military. I served just under 23 years in the Kentucky National Guard. Mobilized several times. Went to Iraq in 2005, and then went back to Iraq 2009, 2010. Retired out as a Chief Warrant Officer 3 in 2023. And then I became elected sheriff at the end of 2022 and started my first term in 2023. And this is my first term, and we're on year 4 right now.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Are you from Fleming County?
No, not originally. I'm originally from Moorhead, Kentucky.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
My parents divorced when I was real little, so my mom stayed in Kentucky in Moorhead, and then my dad moved to Fort Myers, Florida.
Oh, wow. That's a big
So
change.
I actually moved back and forth a little bit. Middle school and high school, I went to Florida. And I personally think that a lot of that helped shape who I am. Just to being able to experience different things and not being, not saying stuck in Moorhead, but, I got to experience a lot more of the world and, the United States by doing all that, the diversity and all that. I went to 3 different high schools, 2 different middle schools. So, it's something I look at and I think helped shape me to be who I am today. So,
No doubt.
I came back and graduated from Round County High School in 2001. And then when I went to Iraq, we left in 2004, got back in 2006. When I came back, my dad had moved back to Kentucky and he had settled down in Fleming County. So he purchased land in 2005. We had purchased a small trailer. I just got married to my wife in 2004, and we had it moved to Fleming County. And then, when I came back from Iraq, moved straight into our home that we had set up and raised my 3 kids here in Fleming County. So
awesome.
I consider Fleming County home.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that makes 3 of us. None of us are originally from this area, Mason or Fleming County. We discussed that on the first episode. I had a question that popped into my head, and this is maybe pointed at both of you on the way here this morning. Not all, but most, I think, is what Jonathan said on the last episode, of the cases that you deal with are all drug related. A heavy percentage of them.
Yeah, I would say the majority of the cases that I see in circuit court, and one thing that we should be mindful of is that Sheriff Smith gets both misdemeanors and felonies.
Yeah.
And so I don't see those misdemeanor cases. I only see them when they make it to circuit court. So on a felony in Kentucky is a crime punishable by 1 year or more. So someone's really got to work hard to get a felony. And the majority of the cases that we see tend to be either they're directly drug cases or they're related to drugs, such as theft and things of that nature.
Right.
We deal with a lot of that kind of stuff. So I was just thinking on the way over here, we have a lot of we have individuals we arrest for drugs of some sort. They'll go to jail for a while. During that time frame, it's like we don't see a lot of thefts happening. As soon as these individuals get out, and I won't name names, but as soon as these individuals get out, we start getting the uptick in theft reports. I mean, it's like clockwork. We get the theft reports coming in, and then we catch them with drugs again, and then catch them with the burglary tools or the stolen items, and then we send them right back to jail, and then it's quiet for a little bit. So I've just in the 3 years, a little over 3 years that I've been sheriff, I mean, I've noticed that trend on a bigger scale because where we have the whole county now. So
sure. Here's the question that came to me, and maybe we need to devote an entire episode to this, or maybe we don't need to at all. But is there? And I know that there's laws. I know that there's been things implemented to try to push against the drug use, abuse, the distribution. Why is it so difficult to get to the root of where all of these drugs are coming from? And that may even go beyond what your jurisdiction is here.
It is. So let me just stress this. Fleming County is a safe, a great environment to live in.
Absolutely, I believe that.
I know people follow my Facebook page, the Sheriff's Office page, and we post a lot of the serious events that happen, which may tend to give us a negative view. But it's not that there's more crime occurring. It's just I'm more transparent about what the Sheriff's Office is responsible in doing.
And I think that's important.
It is. Yeah. But we have we have our drug areas. We heighten our patrols in those areas. But nothing is being manufactured. I'm going to say nothing, but it's not really being manufactured or made in Fleming County.
Correct.
So everybody's got to go outside. For the longest time, and I'm not trying to be political or anything like that, but back in early 2000s, not late 90s, methamphetamine was being made here. People who were making it, you'd have little pop bottles and you'd have straws coming out, and they would just the one hits and stuff like that, and it was being made, the Sudafed, all that kind of stuff. You put the laws into place that makes it harder for Sudafed to be purchased and all that stuff, and it slows that down. Well, the border's been wide open for a long time. The flow of drugs into the country has been there. It's not very hard to get methamphetamine. So our goal has been to identify who has it, who's bringing it in, and then work with everybody, Jonathan's office, the surrounding counties. We've worked with Ryan Swalski here, Mason County, Maysville PD, to identify our people that we're identifying in Fleming County that are using or possessing or selling, and a lot of that tracks back to the next counties over. We're in between, so you've got the AA in Maysville, you've got I-64 and Moorhead in Montgomery County. All of that's coming from either Lexington, Cincinnati, which via Detroit, they're all using the interstate. Sure. So we're not. I mean, we identify that, we know. So we've worked with Mason County a lot. We've found our source, and we've tracked them back here to Mason County. We've worked with Mason County to make those busts on those people. We've worked into Ohio. At any given time, when we arrest somebody else will take advantage of the opportunity to make money, and then they'll start picking up the slack of where they're not. So it's a revolving door for us. The big thing that we've been working on is holding people accountable. Yeah. Now, people do need help. They need treatment. But when they're only getting a slap on the wrist and they go to rehab, and their intentions to go to rehab are not intentions to seek help and to be recovered, that's when they jump on that. They do the minimum amount of time they need to in rehab. They get out and they're right back to it. So we got to hold them accountable. I've worked with Jonathan's office. Great. I mean, we've got a great relationship. I mean, we talk a lot. We're always interacting with what can we do to help the people that we've arrested and put in court system. So
very good.
Yeah. And I would say, Sheriff does a great job talking about the supply of drugs and the the demand issue is it's so hard to get folks to the point where they're not wanting to do drugs in these communities. And what I've learned is my years having followed it and worked in this, and I practice law now for, 24 years, going on 24 years, is in order for someone to completely get away from that, they have to change their playgrounds, playmates, and playthings. It's just an old saying in the recovery world. And so many of them don't do that. They get in trouble. They may do well for a while. They go to a rehab, and then they come back. And they come back and they live in the same places with the same people, with the same friends, with the same urges and temptations. And we're right back in it.
It's so easy to fall back into that groove.
It's so easy. I mean, we have to get people away from their surroundings in order to heal, but that's a tough sell, because as in the judicial system, we've got a hammer, or we can just turn the door open. Those are the two tools that we primarily have, and we can put people in jail for a while, but they're going to eventually come out. And so that's the dilemma that we have, and that's why we're working together to try to be more strategic and to parse through those folks that we think might have an opportunity, and those folks that we think just they have shown no willingness to get help. They're hardcore traffickers. We try to get them long prison sentences.
We have a church. We run 80 to 100 people on a Sunday, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I would think 10 to 15% have been delivered, or what we would call delivered completely. Some with no 12-step program. I mean, it was just a supernatural thing between them and God. So that's the part that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around. How can we be the faith community, get more connected to those people, and shine the light that, hey, you don't have to live like this. You can break the cycle and live victorious. My brother-in-law, I think I mentioned him the other day, but 20 years, 21 years, something like that, heavily addicted in Fleming County. You may have even arrested him, I'm not sure, but he did get help through a program, and he went to drug court, graduated, and doing great. I'm so thankful for that. But there's so many people that don't make it, and that's the sad part.
So when I took office, we started. That was one of my big things. Was let's try to remove as much as we can. So then we started posting. It was a lot of posts. People were seeing all the negative. Spoke with Jonathan about it, and Jonathan's like, let's highlight the motivational ones. Let's highlight the ones that have made it. So, we focus a lot on them too. Jonathan posts a Monday motivational.
Great stuff.
And
Great.
it shows people that aren't in that stage yet that there is hope for it. And then we've invited those people. We've had open forums for people to come in. I've spoke at one for sure and left. That way I didn't bother anybody who was struggling with addiction or anything like that, or my presence would concern them or something. But we've pushed that a lot. I mean, we work with a lot of our rehab centers to make sure that people know what's available out there for them for recovery.
Yeah, and I think the faith community has a really special role to play in this, Pastor, and they do it really well. I think we've got a Celebrate Recovery that recently started in Fleming County at Greater Rain Church. They've got a really phenomenal Celebrate Recovery program here in Maysville at Cross Point, and I believe that those programs where you encourage people in and you welcome them in. And also what the sheriff has done by sharing posts and by opening up his doors to people to come in. That's what these folks need as much as anything is. They need that affirmation, because it's hard enough to overcome what they've done. They've
the shame
and they've in many instances have done some things that they're rightfully so pretty embarrassed about. But to just say, look, we're clean slate. We're going to work with you and show you love and kindness and respect. I think that is a key factor in helping people with their long-term recovery.
Maybe one thing that we should do, this is just a thought, and maybe we'll talk this out here on this podcast, but maybe we reach out and we start a directory of churches that have committed or take a pledge or however we want to do this, that says, hey, if you're addicted, there is no shame here. We're here to help. I know that some church cultures, even within our own fellowship, are probably not conducive to that, but our church is. And that's something that I would certainly would help promote. And I don't know, maybe give me your thoughts on that, because
I love the idea. I think it's a great idea. I think that the more people we reach and let them know that there are tools and resources to help, and there are programs and models. If there's a church out there that wants to be part of the solution, they can embrace some of these models that are already being used. So I love the idea.
Yeah, I mean, as a law enforcement agency, we're very limited on what we can and can't do. So we are all for utilizing our community resources to help resolve issues that we're facing.
Interesting. We need to get that on paper, Jonathan.
Yeah, let's follow up on that.
And I would go to push farther, because let's talk about the weather. The weather's been bad. You're talking about warming shelters, places like that, because homeless people or people without residence are the ones they struggle with addiction, probably I would say at a higher rate than others. But food shelters, food banks, stuff like that. Kind of incorporate everything together, just to kind of a mass resource of what we have and what we can do to help anybody in need and addiction.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. One thing that I think that we have to look at, and I don't know how Fleming County or Flemingsburg is, but there are these rules and regulations on sheltering people, and I haven't read up on anything here recently of how that's handled now in Mason County or the city of Maysville. Technically, we're in the county at this church, but you get to the end of our driveway and it's the city limits. But when you start sheltering people, there's this whole big thing that you got to jump through with insurance companies and city regulations, county regulations, etc. So that could be something that we work with local government to kind of try to find a workaround and be above board and not. We're here to help. We're not here to make anybody's life bad. So.
Well, and the great thing is there's some efforts already underway, and that's why I like your idea of better connections with the various churches, because you've got some collaborations that can be done.
All right. Last words.
Let me introduce, before we adjourn.
Yep.
Let me introduce another topic, and it's an
sure.
uncomfortable topic, but
That's all right.
it's one that we struggle with. So we talked about our drug cases, and sadly, that's a majority of our docket. But one of the problems that we continue to see in circuit court is cases against kids, cases where people commit crimes. We refer to those as sex crimes, where people abuse children. We deal with child pornography, and so that's another huge issue, Pastor, that we're facing, and that we're out battling it. Sheriff Smith's out seeing it. State police do a really good job investigating those kinds of cases, because they oftentimes require more extensive resources, and you've got to crack cell phones and do a lot that they're a little more wired to do, but it's certainly a collaborative effort. And so that's another problem, a huge problem that we're facing in all three counties.
And I'm sure the access to technology has just exacerbated that to a degree that it's almost probably difficult to get your head wrapped around.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, it's readily available at their fingertips at an early age. So that's something, we need to. We work with the schools to help give that information out there, to let them know, try to understand the problems. I mean, we've got a school program in middle school for the drug program. Officer school resource officer Jacob Hartzell covers it. And then, when I was SRO, I talked about internet safety, phone safety, sending and receiving messages, pictures, that kind of stuff. And you can tell them all day, every day, and then throughout the rest of the year, I just kept dealing with it over and over again. So it's something that we need to, probably push a lot harder on and make sure they understand the consequences of the actions that they do.
Yeah, it's almost as if talking to them at school, which I continue to want to do, and I applaud educators for doing it, but it's not enough. It's, for some reason, that message to them of don't send images, don't engage with people, that message doesn't always get through. People are people. No matter how much you preach to them, I'm sure you found that over the years. No matter how much you preach to them, even if they're in the pews every Sunday,
Correct.
They're still going to go wayward. But I think that we need to double down on that, because what I've found is after these folks engage, whether they're a perpetrator or a victim, and in many cases there's not a real bright line between it because they're both engaging in the conduct, but the victim is a victim because of their age. Both of them have deep shame and lasting harm. And so, for those victims especially, we need to try to deflect them away from that kind of conduct and those kinds of dangers to protect them. And that's another project that I think, going back to what you mentioned earlier with the Interfaith Council, could be a good one.
We, I'm sure you both know, have a very broad spectrum across Christianity. You get to the very, if you want to call it left or right or whatever, one end of the spectrum is pretty liberal in their approach to Scripture. Then you have the far to the other end. It's very dogmatic, restrictive, very little Christian liberty, etc. We probably fall in the middle. We're more conservative than a lot of folks in our fellowship, in our church. But we certainly try not to be dogmatic at the same time. But I've got a friend that is, he attends a church in Bardstown, Kentucky, that introduced me to something a few years ago, and I followed back up with him yesterday about it. And it's a phone company called Troomi, Troomi, and it's designed for kids to have a smartphone. And I can show you guys this when we get done here, but it may help another parent, because you can the parent has a dashboard that they can log into on a computer, and they have to approve any new contact. They can read the text messages on those kids' phones. If there's unsafe content, I think there's a way that you can adjust the level of content that you want to come into that phone on the approved apps that you gave or that you approved. So I was thinking, when you brought this topic up, that this is such a huge deal. Kids in today's world need access or to communicate, I think, but it's, my son is 12, he'll be 13 in May, and handing him a smartphone with unlimited access is overwhelming to me because of the things that you just mentioned. Even handing them an iPad or device in our home where we're standing or sitting beside of them, there may be things that pop up or messages that come through that, there is a dark web. I think we all know that their goal is to swoop kids in. We see it with the Epstein situation.
And you hear it on the news daily. I mean, we just had a young girl in Rockcastle County that met somebody on the internet and got picked up and was located in northeastern states. Another story was somebody meeting somebody on Roblox, a little game.
Yep.
It's there, and now those apps and that kind of stuff is great. We have a lot of absent fathers in our communities, and I think that plays a big part in the structure at home. Or absent parents altogether, not necessarily just fathers, but you get a lot of them who are being raised by grandparents. who
that aren't as tech savvy.
that had no technology, they're not there with it. So I mean, we've got to do better about being involved in these kids, and I think the schools are our first line to those kids, so they know I wouldn't say know who is at risk, but they would probably see it a lot quicker, the counselors and stuff like that. So programs that we can get. I mean, I was part of Dads of Great Students program. My kids went to Hillsborough Elementary School, and I think we had a dad in the school just about every day, or at least weekly, being a part of it and helping out. So some of those kind of programs, being back involved, Big Brother, that kind of stuff, any that we can push to be back involved in school. I coached soccer for middle school and high school, and I felt my presence there was beneficial to some of the students. They could talk to me. Of course, being a police officer, everybody always asks me the same questions, like, "Have you done this?" or do you pull people over? But having role models in these kids' lives would probably be a big step in the right direction.
I remember growing up, there was this program called Big Brother, Big Sister. I don't know if that's still going, and that was the goal, was to kind of step in and fill any void. One of the big things that I focus on, I mention it almost every service as a pastor in the pulpit, is the order of the home, and how important it is for that order to be followed, because when God designed that, he's the head, then the husband, then the wife, then the children. When that order is followed, there's protection for the husband, there's double protection for the wife, and there's triple protection for the kids. But when that gets out of line, and when that gets out of order, it kind of tailspins, and I think we see the results of it in our society. But very good stuff, very good information. I'll post this link to this Troomi cell phone dashboard thing in the show notes, and I'll also forward it to you guys, and maybe you can pass it on to whoever.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. But final last words.
Thanks for having us on again, and great to have a conversation with Sheriff. I've enjoyed working with him these last few years. I would just say this about the Sheriff's Office. We talk about a lot of agencies: state police, city police, MPD. All these agencies work together, and that's what's truly special for me as a prosecutor. Is I'm up here seeing the cases after they happen, and if sheriff is out responding to something, or state police is out responding to something, you can bet that they're backing one another up. And I think that's what we need to be as a community, is always continuing to support one another. And so just wanted to praise them and praise Sheriff individually for his leadership and willingness to both hold people accountable and also give people a second chance.
Very good. Very good. One thing I try to teach our kids, that when you see a cop, there's no reason to get anxious or fearful. And I'm like, hey, they're here to help us. And I think that stigma kind of, if we can break that somehow, they're not bad guys. I know that there's been a lot of flack here in the last few years, but cops are guardians of our community, and that's always been my stance. So thank you.
Just like with anything else, I mean, you've got bad apples in every sort, and then that's my focus, is to hold my guys accountable, make sure that they're all professional when they're dealing with people, and then we handle everything with dignity, and we care for people. So at the end of the day, my deputies have done a great job dealing with the public, and I think the community understands that, and they have put a lot of trust in us for that reason.
It's a big deal. Yeah. Thank you for listening to episode 2 of Faith and Law. We hope that you subscribe and share this podcast with someone that you know, and look forward to the next episode in March. God bless you. Have a great day in Jesus' name.